Mike Owens with Inside Fighting here, and it is an absolute pleasure to be joined by Clay the Carpenter Guida, who returns to action to face Chase Hooper at UFC 310. Clay, great to sit down and chat. How are things with you today?
Oh, fantastic, Michael. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. I know we got to meet at UFC 300, and now we're here talking about UFC 310, which is about 2 weeks out, man. So we're super excited that we're able to connect and get this interview done.
Well, your last nine fights have taken place on Fight Night cards, most recently in Austin last December. You make your pay-per-view return. The last time you fought on a pay-per-view was UFC 237 against BJ Pimblett in Brazil. Does that mean anything extra to you to fight on these bigger cards and specifically to fight in the T-Mobile Arena?
Man, I tell you what, it's the our career has come full circle. I made my UFC debut in October 14th, 2006 at UFC 64, which was I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it was Rich Franklin and Anderson Silva.
Hmm.
Man, I can't remember remember they used to name the cards back in the day.
I'm a little
Oh,
bit too before the
I
names
got
of them. Go on.
I think they called it Unstoppable. Maybe that might have been it. So that was the first of uh, their two fights. And man, yes, we love to fight on the big cards. We love to be in the big arenas. It's been quite some time now. I actually thought my last pay-per-view fight was in Chicago when I fought back home against Charles Oliveira. But yeah, I overlooked the BJ Penn fight. I actually forgot that was a pay-per-view. And that was down in Rio. That was a really cool card. Awesome to fight. In Brazil. Anderson Silva was on the card, I believe. Yeah, no, yeah, I can't remember, but yeah, just Max Holloway, Jose Aldo, great card. So it's awesome to be back on another big card, and yeah, my first time at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, the mecca of MMA, the home of the UFC. We're pumped.
And you're fighting a guy who's very much in a different spot in his career, in Chase Hooper, very, very young in his career, as opposed to you with so many fights and so much experience. Out of interest, give me your first reaction when you got the name Chase Hooper handed to you.
Oh, we're always excited about a new name, whether it be consider maybe an up and comer or a prospect or a veteran. We love a good challenge. Those are the things that intrigue me in my career. And we're like you said, we're at different ends of the spectrum in our career,
Hmm.
and those things make for a great fight. Stylistically, he's got a very, very solid grappling background. Jiu-jitsu, as you know, we had a grappling match against each other about a year and a half ago. He got me in a leg lock. But all that stuff, jiu-jitsu is not jiu-jitsu when there's punches and kicks involved. And so that's going to be the dynamic in this fight. And but yeah, everyone knows we shine the brightest under those lights come fight night, especially in a big arena.
At this stage of your career, do you have more interest in veteran versus veteran matches with guys of similar or your close experience to yourself, or do you like the thought of a young buck who's maybe early in his career and trying to, teach the young guy a lesson or two, let's say?
Yeah, great question. At this point in our career, we'll fight them all, man. As long as it's not our teammates, uh, bring them up and we'll put on a show for you. That's kind of where I'm at. We want to test ourselves. I always love, like I said, a new challenge. We like to, you know, see what we're made of and put it out there against these guys. People have seen so much of our fights, they've seen our style, but very few have really been able to track us. You know what I mean? Yes, we haven't gotten our hand raised in a lot of our fights, but I feel like we've always been kind of a tricky puzzle for our opponents. And you know what? Um, it just gives me more of a challenge, and I get to figure these guys out along the way too.
I will tell you honestly, this is a little bit of a full circle moment for me because as I was a teenager getting into this sport, your fight with Diego Sanchez was one of the fights that I watched and was like, this is for me. This sport is just for me. So I will thank you for that in all honesty. But you've accomplished so much in your career. At this stage, are the goals that you have left, or are you just taking this one fight at a time?
Well, thank you for the kind words. And as I move, grow in our career, I have friends, I have fans, I have people come up to us. Some fighters, one by the name of, I got to meet him for the first time at the UFC in Arizona, in Phoenix a couple years ago when Charles Oliveira fought Justin Gaethje, Tony Ferguson fought Michael Chandler.
Mm.
I was walking down to our seats and I got to meet Paddy Pimblett for the first time, and he
Mhm.
was having a great time, cheering, just having a blast. People coming up to him, going to us, and he goes, "Clay, I got into UFC when I saw you and Diego Sanchez fight, and you know what? To me, that's like the ultimate compliment. So I thank you for that, and if we can bring more amazing fans to such an amazing sport, then we've done our job, and that's I owe everything to sport. The sport doesn't owe me anything, and man, that's the ultimate compliment. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And look, here you are, all these years later, interviewing some of the top athletes in mixed martial arts. So, but yeah, back to your question. Did you ask what goals do I have still,
Yeah,
or what do I want to accomplish?
what goals do you still have, if at all? Is there something that you're
Yeah,
still chasing, or do you take this one fight at a time?
yeah, always one fight at a time. I just want to continue to be more active. Yeah, as we continue, to fight the upper echelon. They always. That's one thing about when Sean Shelby, Mick Mander, they come to us. They never give an easy fight to Guida. You know what I
Mm.
mean? We'll always, because they know we'll fight whoever, because you know what? That's what we signed up to do. When we knew we were going to become a professional mixed martial artist, there ain't no easy road to the top, man.
Mm.
But yeah, you know what? Right now, Jim Miller has got he's got a couple of my how do you say, records, I guess, if you will. He's got the most fights. He's got way more wins.
Mm.
The guy is just an absolute machine. After his performance Saturday night, holy smokes, man! He retired another opponent, a very worthy opponent in Damon Jackson. Another submission. So yeah, I would love to continue to be or walk away from the sport down the road with the most takedowns in the UFC. And I believe I think we're second now as far as active fighters. But what Marab Diashvili just took first place, I believe. He took the leader when he beat Sean O'Malley. So he's in first place. I believe I'm a close second. And he's done it in about half of the time. I think Marab's only been in the UFC for, I feel like, 5 or 6 years. And this
Mm.
guy just, holy smokes, he's on a roll. So I'm happy for him. I like that kid. He's a great wrestler. I always stick with the wrestlers. Um, but yeah, I would like to be someday have the most fights in the UFC, or have the longest tenure, which right now we are. I think we're, as far as consistent
Mm.
over time, we just hit our 18th year in the UFC. And being a wrestler, it'd be cool to have the most takedowns in the UFC someday. So the goal to be a champion, it's always in the back of my mind. We always think about that, but we gotta get back in the winning side of things first. I'm
Mm.
a realistic thinker.
Well, with this fight, this will be your 37th UFC fight, which will put you fourth all time. It will put you one behind Donald Cerrone, and it will put you five behind Andrei Arlovski, both of which are now retired. So to break in either of those man's records interest you in getting to third or maybe second all time behind Jim Miller, who, as you say, is still soaring at the moment.
100%. Yep. Donald Cerrone, a close friend of mine, teammate of mine for years over at Jackson's. And I heard maybe he might be coming back here too. Hopefully, I've always, it was one of those things. I know Donald so well. He's such a competitor. He's such an athlete, and I had a feeling maybe he just needed a little bit of time. Excuse me, maybe away from the octagon for a little bit, and I knew we'd be seeing him again. I'm not sure if that's 100%, but I heard some rumors, so I'd love to see him back in there. It'd be cool to see him up at 170 and fight some of these guys too, or even 185, pack some pounds on, and
Mm.
swing with these heavy hitters. Um, and it's kind of funny, when I first started my career, we used to drive down to Chicago a couple times a week and train with Andrei Arlovski back in the day.
Wow.
Used to do jujitsu with him. I used to box, used to spar with Andrei Arlovski. Obviously, he would go very light on me, very easy on myself. My brother would spar with him. So, excuse me, it would be an honor to be, talked about in the same room with those guys someday as well. So, yeah, we're still running and gunning, man, at the ripe young age of 42 years old.
Any interest in a rematch with Jim Miller?
Man, Jimmy's my buddy. We're gonna do some fishing together. He's a big outdoorsman, some hunting, and we'd love to get him on a Gills and Thrills trip, man. But man, Jim Millhouse Miller is just on a roll, and I love to see him successful and keep accomplishing great things, man. Because He's doing it for all his veterans out there, man.
Well, here's a question I've got for you. As a veteran, I checked your record earlier before we jumped on. You fought five former UFC lightweight champions. If I can name them correctly, it's Charles Oliveira, Benson Henderson, um, Anthony Pettis,
Yeah,
BJ Penn, and
just trying to think that one too.
number
What
five,
is his name?
um,
Oh,
RDA.
that's Roberto Años, right?
RDA,
Rafael Dos
RDA,
Anjos.
Rafael dos Santos,
Right,
correct.
there you
So you
go.
fought a
Yeah.
who's who of the top echelon at 155. Out of interest, how would you rank the top five pound for pound, the top five list of lightweight goats? What would be your top five of lightweight
Oh,
fighters ever
of all
of all
time
time?
lightweight fighters.
Of all time.
Okay, well, I think you got to put BJ Penn in his prime, and I still, people say it all the time. He top one or two all day. Um, the guy was untouchable for the longest time, and then I think at a close second, you got to pick the guy that dethroned him. I think Frankie Edgar, only because he did it. Did he beat him three times? Twice for sure. I think he fought him
Twice.
three times.
Twice.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Um, because he did it and he was so much smaller. Frankie's, my son, him and I are the smallest lightweights. And now he went down to 35 before he
Mm,
retired, but he was a very undersized lightweight. And to fight a guy like BJ, who is much bigger than us. So I think that even um, gives him more dominance, if you will. So
mm,
I would say those two guys for sure. Khabib.
mm.
I mean, obviously his record speaks for itself. It's a guy. That's all you got to say is Khabib.
Could be.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's simple. Um, so top three for sure. Those could go anyway. And let me come up with two more. Maybe a guy that wasn't necessarily in the UFC. Well, it's tough to say. I'm trying to think who. Oh man, Oliveira for sure. The
Oliveira.
dominant run. Yeah, Oliveira. He went on a run that was just unbelievable. Finishing the top guys. What he did to Michael Chandler last week.
Mm,
Holy snow. He out grappled a two-time Division I All-American
mm.
collegiate wrestler. He kind of had his way with him. It was pretty wild to see. And let's see, one more. Jeez. Who do you got? You throw one in there.
I suppose Islam Makhachev might be the obvious shout, but you could go a retro pick and go with someone like Anthony Pettis, who was all but unstoppable in
Yes.
his prime.
Yep. I like Islam. He's gonna do great things. I just feel like it's still so premature. So is he defended it twice now or just once technically? Because he won it.
I
And I think he's
believe
got does he have two defenses or one
he, he
defense?
he has three technically, so the two over Volkanovski and then the third against Poirier back in May.
Okay.
So technically three
Here,
defenses.
here's the deal. He's if he can get past if he can get past Arman Sarukian, chances are he's gonna be the greatest lightweight of all time.
Mm,
Because I don't see anyone getting in his way for a while. But I also base it on time as the champion.
mm.
Um, you know, different opponents, and I
Yeah.
feel like Oliveira Pettis had it for a while.
Mm,
But yeah, I think that's a great list right there.
I love it. Well, last question from me, Clay, and thank you so much for your time. You can
Mhm.
be as brief or as detailed as you like with this one, but
Yep.
give me a walkthrough of your perfect fight day as you envisage it. So December 7th, when you wake up in the morning to when you go to sleep at night, talk me through what the perfect day looks like.
Man, we wake up, we get our little run in, get a little sweat, go watch some wrestling because there's a college tournament going to be in town. Hopefully, go see some of the kids that I helped coach when they were in high school or now Division I programs. Watch a little wrestling with my coaches, with my brother. Have a bite to eat before that or after that. Get our regular our omelet and with our oatmeal. Get a good charge. Head back to the hotel. Get our little sweat into. Work some mitts with our coach. Little game plan. Off to the locker room. crank up some music in the locker room, get ready for victory, man. When they do the countdown and we go out there and we get that whole arena rocking, man, to whatever song we come out with, everybody's on their feet. We're high five on our fans, our family, our friends, everyone that's in the crowd, and we get that place chanting and going nuts, man. We go out there and we go into Guida mode, and whatever happens, happens, man. We put on a show. We're gonna swing for the fences, and we're gonna come out. It'd be awesome to finish this guy and get one back from Chase with a submission. So I think I owe him one, and get our hand raised, give him a hug, and move on to the next one, man.
I love it. Well, Clay, thank you so much for your time. It was great to chat with you today. Have a great and safe rest of camp, and I look forward to seeing you back in action soon.
Thank you, Michael. Cheers, mate.